with years of experience in the building department. He comes from the city of Denison in their building department. Today, he started today with Perry and starting to get accustomed to our procedures with the building department, and hopefully we'll see a very smooth transition when Perry retires at the end of the month. So again, welcome, Chris.
Thanks, everybody. We actually require speeches here at Carroll. I'll be right back.
All right, welcome aboard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we have an Arbor Day proclamation that we do every year, and I think it's becomes more and more important as we think about all the ash trees that we are losing, to think about considering replenishing our tree supply in town, and so we designate Arbor Day as noted by the city. So I'd like to read that proclamation now. Whereas Iowa's trees were a significant attraction to early settlers because of their multiple benefits and the beautiful environment they provided. And whereas trees are an increasingly vital resource in Iowa, enriching our lives by purifying our air and water, helping to conserve our soil and energy, creating jobs through our forest products, industries, serving us with shade for our recreation, serving our wildlife with food and shelter, and making our communities a more pleasant place to live and work. And whereas with the cooperation of all Iowans, the benefits of trees can be passed on to future generations through tree planting and conservation of this renewable resource. And whereas each year on Arbor Day, the people of Iowa pay special attention to the benefits of our trees and dedicate themselves to the planting and management of Iowa's forest resources. Now therefore, I, Gerald H. Fleshner, Mayor of Carroll, do hereby proclaim April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in Carroll, and I urge citizens to participate in tree planting programs that will ensure a greener Carroll and a greener Iowa, and to nurture, protect, and wisely use Iowa's natural wonder of trees. All right, thank you very much. And we have proclamations from the MU store there that I signed. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which includes approval of minutes of the March 24th meetings, approval of bills and claims, licenses and permits, which include the renewal of Class D retail alcohol license for Walgreens, number 10770, renewal of Class C retail alcohol license for Carroll Brewing Company, renewal of Class E retail alcohol license for Beer 30 Carroll, renewal of Class E retail alcohol license for Hy-Vee, a new 5-day Class C retail alcohol license for Carroll Hy-Vee for the Kemper Ball, May 3rd, and a new 5-day special Class C retail alcohol license for Lucky Wife Wine Slushies for a special event at Midwest Styling Company on May 3rd, 2025. It also includes infill housing incentive applications and quotes for concrete work at Rolling Hills Park. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
By Tom, and Jason seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Schreck?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
All right, are there any oral requests from the audience that's here today regarding anything that you would like to address that is not on the agenda this evening? I see nothing. We will move on to ordinances, and the first and only ordinance is the Carroll Rec Center fees proposed raise. This will be for the first reading and chat.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The last several months, the park board staff and I have worked quite a few hours on trying to figure out what we want to do with rec center fees. Obviously, they haven't been raised since, in my memo, it says 21. It was approved in 2021, but enacted January 1st of 2022. Couple of the main things that we wanted to do was obviously try and cover as many of the shortfalls as we can, while also making things more manageable and easy on the staff side. A couple of things that we're looking at doing and changing in the main memberships is eliminating the 24-hour access membership. We'll continue to have 24-hour access, but it will be part of your actual membership. The second being including fitness classes and regular membership, so no additional fees or memberships tied with that. We took a look at 14 different rec centers and YMCA's, and that's kind of the main package across all the boards. We've seen with trying to cover the shortfalls of fitness, trying to increase and increase and increase, and it's become so expensive that most people won't even take the class anymore. So that was a main change, along with must be a member to attend these classes as well. Park Board did a great job of taking a look at the numbers. For the people that aren't members that do buy punch cards currently, it's actually a cheaper option for them. So making an all-inclusive membership. If any of our Park Board members want to speak on it, they're more than welcome to. Otherwise, have the first meeting. The numbers are all included with your packets.
Chad, so everything has an increase besides the daily admission and the group rate. What was the reasoning behind that?
Main reason behind that was just taking a look at what the daily admission is across the board at a lot of our similar size facilities, and we were actually on the higher end for that. So generally you try and have, 3 to 4 uses, like daily admissions, to equal up to a monthly membership, and that's kind of where we landed.
Okay.
How are we doing on our registration fees from like sports and stuff like that? I see that, as I look at the budget, that's a large deficit to that budget.
For leisure services,
For like leisure services, have we looked at ways to make that more cost effective?
for sure.
For
sure.
Does it require raising rates? Does it?
And we have been raising rates on our youth events. Obviously, just making sure that we're as close to breaking even or making money on them. We've cut 3 programs in the last 2 years because they were just hemorrhaging money and no one was participating in it.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to cut things. I think that there's
Well, you
be
cut
able
and
to
then you also
yeah.
add on the other side. You try and find new things that are going to work.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I would like to talk just a little bit.
If you just introduce yourselves for
Sorry,
online, go ahead.
Deb Quant on the board for the Parks and Rec. And I would like to introduce what we talked about were the punch cards for basically for seniors that are either taking a class in the pool or taking a class, any exercise type class. They're using a punch card, which a punch card is $40. So if they're using this punch card and they use it for 3 times a week, which would be 12 classes times the year, their yearly expense, if they did that, would be $576. If they did it twice weekly, it would be $384. So either way, at 12%, and our propose is to go away with the punch cards, would be $273 per person. There's a lot of disadvantages to having these punch cards. Number one is you have to remember to bring them with you. You have to remember that, it's a lot of work, and I think Jean and I both went through that. If you want to explain a little bit about that.
Yes, Jean Ludwig. I'm also on the Parks and Recreation Board. We looked at one of the problems we felt like one of the most people who would have the most objection to this increase are the people who are in the swim class, the swim exercise class. They're all mostly senior citizens, and change is always difficult. And one of the things that is going to be an argument is the flexibility for them with the punch cards. But on the same side, when we have 30 women coming in at the same time getting their cards punched, it's chaos going on and I think they would recognize that case, that if they didn't have to sit through that, they would be happier. I think the fact that it's not any more costly, and I think we can work out the flexibility, but that was some of the main things we were talking about, trying to get the change approved. And so we're planning to talk to when we've figured this all out with y'all, we're going to talk with the members of those classes
And we also kind of decided that, you know, whether they're taking a swim class or whether they're taking an exercise class, it's just easier for them, and it's also easier for the people keeping track. The back office of this is very intense because you've got to always keep track of who's doing what and how many punches are left and all of that. And I think doing away with that is going to help with a lot of the book work and a lot of the upkeep in doing all this. The other advantage they're going to have to not having a punch card is they are now going to be a member of the rec center. Okay, they're going to be a member of the rec center. So now they can use the track, they can use the equipment, they can use anything that's at the rec center. So I think that's a huge advantage for them. They not only can just walk in and do a class, but they can stay there if they want and do whatever they want. The rec center's theirs.
I guess, does the rest of the board see your sentiment on this? Or-
Yes.
Oh, yes,
yeah,
we had-
Yeah, we're just representing the
just-
board.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
representing
Oh,
the
yeah.
board, so the board wants the punch cards?
Yes.
Oh, wants to get
No,
rid of
what-
them, wants to
what's-
get rid of them.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Wants to
they're
get-
removed in here, right?
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we want to get rid of
I just
them.
wanna make, I was like,
Yeah.
I was kind of
They-
confused.
that's
Sorry.
what we're talking about.
What,
No,
what
we-
were you confused about?
Whether you
thought
had
you wanted
punch
to
cards
keep
or
the
not
punch
punch cards.
cards.
I know
So,
we
We
want-
do have punch cards
but you want to get
now
rid of them.
No, you're right.
that are $40 each.
Yeah, and we want
And
to get
we
rid
want
of
to get
them.
rid of those.
So the board agrees with this change?
Yes.
Something fun?
Yes, that was,
Okay, yes.
I've been at a number of their meetings, and I'll tell you, you guys went into some pretty deep discussions and actually arguing back and forth. So it's not like they just thought this up. They worked on it, what, 2 or 3 meetings?
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
we talk in between meetings and
Yeah.
try to gel things together to try to get everybody to agree on the same floor mat.
and try to figure out the way to approach it in a way that will be acceptable and have the minimal damage as far as loss of members for the classes and so forth. That is always a concern when you make any change.
And that's one of the reasons this committee's been formed, is to dig into that.
Right,
I was impressed of how hard you guys did it.
thank you.
Thank you.
So the proposed changes, there's some members that wanted to raise it even higher.
Yes,
than
I
my
was one of
understanding.
those.
Yeah,
Okay.
me too.
Okay,
And mainly because we haven't increased it. You know how conservative I am.
yeah,
But we haven't had an increase since '22. And I think that when we look at the time, the staff time that is being used to keep these punch cards up to date and try to figure out who's got what, and who forgot what, we're gonna find that there are savings in that for this project by
Yeah, the
having these people on
teachers-
membership.
Teachers actually having to punch the cards, that's another, I'm a
Yeah.
teacher, so I know what that's like.
Exactly.
I have a question, I guess, is there a plan in place that maybe you guys talked about, like, is gradually increasing it so we don't?
There
So it's not
was some
such a-
discussion on having just a set annual increase, but we would rather actually review it every year and see where we need to be.
But we do plan on reviewing it each
Correct.
year and kind of, okay.
Yeah, it's in the
COVID.
memo. Yep,
Got a problem.
thank
It
you.
was every
I saw
year or
it in the
every
memo,
other year
sometimes
we
I
did
can
it.
ask people
Well,
to approve it.
I know, I wanted to thank them for it,
I go-
yeah.
What'd you say, what do you want to talk about, Laverne?
Well, it used to be every year, every other year we looked at this, but COVID got in and now that's why it's so long.
Yeah, right, exactly. So 12% is kind of, is that what,
Well, that's what we wanted.
that's what we're proposing, so,
For resident.
non-resident.
No,
No,
for resident and
resident.
for non-resident.
Oh,
what
it'd be
is it?
higher, yeah.
For
Yeah, higher.
14 for.
Correct.
14 or
Yeah.
16?
16, I
Was
think.
it
16, I
16 for
think.
non-resident.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
good job,
Not
thank
just
you.
your time tonight, but you obviously put a lot of effort into this as a group, so, and Chad, you too.
Yeah,
Good for all of you to work on this stuff. Are there any other questions from council? If not, I'd look for a motion to approve the first reading only of the ordinance amending Carroll Recreation fees and charges, number 114.03.
Second.
Jason, seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Atherton?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Warden?
Yes.
Seaman?
yes,
Struck? Yes. Motion is approved.
Okay, very good. Move on to resolutions. Our first resolution this evening is the fiscal year 2026 health insurance renewal. And Laura, do you want to started.
Yes, I will make
Okay.
a few opening comments, and then I will turn it over to Denise Ballard.
Okay.
So we worked with IGHCP, or I should say they worked with us to give us the great news this year of the increase from Wellmark. If you'll recall, the city buys a high deductible plan, and then we partially self-fund it down to a lower level for our employees. And IGHCP has negotiated a 0% increase on the Wellmark premium. However, there was a slight increase in their consulting fee of $5 per plan, which was approximately $3,400 for the city. We do have a very healthy fund balance in our medical insurance, and so we feel we should be able to absorb that and pay for that increase out of that fund balance while maintaining the COBRA rates for our employees at what we're currently at, so no increase there. Then we also saw a slight increase on the dental insurance at 6%. And as you'll recall, that's from Delta Dental, and it's currently paid 100% by the employee. There was a 0% increase on the vision insurance from Delta Vision, and that is also 100% paid by the employee. This year, we are asking council to consider a couple of new offerings. If you recall last meeting, or excuse me, a year ago, council had asked about offering the voluntary life insurance for employees, and so that information has been included, and Denise can talk about it in further detail here shortly. And then we also want to take a look at offering an employee assistance program, or EAP. IGHCP does offer that for the cities and their members to have this benefit offered for their employees. And you can see it's 35 cents per month per active employee, which is approximately $280 for the city to offer that service. And she can talk a little bit more detail about what some of that is offering. But we do have Denise here from IGHCP to talk further about any questions that you may have about this year's renewal.
Thank you. I'm Denise Ballard. I'm the consultant for the Iowa Governmental Healthcare Plan, or IGHCP. This is the City of Carroll's first renewal with IGHCP as you guys joined July 1st of last year. I think in your packet I have just like 2 or 3 pages that we want to quickly cover. The first just indicates that we're up to 54 entities, so there's 53 other cities and counties just like you that are joint purchasing health insurance. All groups are providing partial self-funding as the funding mechanism for that. Following that, you'll see again in your packet, Laura already reviewed this with you, but each of the premium increases are listed: medical, dental, vision, basic life, and accidental death and dismemberment. You'll see the annual cost for each of the benefits, the new change, or the renewal cost for each of the benefits, with totals at the bottom. So the only benefit that you'll see reflecting a change would be the Delta Dental, with that 6% increase reflecting a $1,200 monthly increase. I'm sorry, annual increase. Okay, then that's going to take us to the EAP highlights. So EAP is an employee assistance program. This is an employer offered or sponsored program that allows employees access to confidential services such as counseling. It gives 3 face-to-face, and you can see in the highlight page there, 24-hour, 7-day-a-week direct access to master level counselors, available via phone, text, email, website, FaceTime. There's clinical services, case management. In addition to that, there's a lot of other services that the employees will see in the event you do implement the EAP program, such as things like document recovery. We had a gentleman in a county east of here that was traveling a couple of years ago, lost all of his documents while traveling, so he used the EAP program for document recovery. So the EAP counselors, professionals, attorneys actually work behind the scenes while he finished his vacation in getting those documents recovered at no cost so he could finish his vacation. Also, I've had a client use an emergency pet boarding service. So little things that you wouldn't think of, but that could cause a lot of stress and anxiety for your employees. You know, in this case, they had a fire in a portion of their house. They had to go stay in a hotel, so they needed pet boarding, and the EAP program came through and provided pet boarding at no cost for those days that their house was getting restored. So those are just a few of the items. Again, as Laura mentioned, 35 cents per employee per month. Again, it's all confidential information, so I don't even have access to the counseling information, your employees would have 100% confidentiality where that's concerned. On the next page, then you'll find the voluntary life program. We did visit about this last year when I was here. We didn't implement it last year because we were changing the health insurance benefits, so we were trying to go slow with your employees, but we can offer that this year. There would be a guarantee issue amount for your employees. So your employees could get, up to, I think it's 200,000. I don't see why I don't see it immediately.
Yeah,
Okay, without medical underwriting, yes. So 200,000 is the guaranteed issue. That means there's no medical underwriting. So if you have an employee that has received a diagnosis of, I mean, it just doesn't take much anymore relative to a diagnosis to be declined health insurance. Under our program, up to 200,000 is guaranteed issue, even if they have a diagnosis that would otherwise disable them from getting a contract. So no questions asked for the first $200,000 of life insurance. You just indicate that that's what you want up to that point. No medical underwriting. If somebody wanted more than that, they could certainly get it. There would be some health insurance questions that would have to be answered in order to qualify for the amount over 200,000.
What's the cost for that for the employee?
It's age rated, so I've provided Aaron and Laura a nice chart that will go out to all of the employees that they find their age, they just follow that over, and then it shows them in $10,000 increments what the monthly cost would be.
Not that I'm worried, but for my age, it would be $95 a month.
For how much? For 200?
For 200.
95 a month.
Or it might be 98, and then for your spouse, it's 95.
Okay.
So in the event that you wanted to offer voluntary life insurance, I would suggest having a pretty active open enrollment. In other words, have myself, team members here to assist employees in answering questions on that life insurance, what their need might be, or any questions where that's concerned. Other than that, the last page is just our current membership. So since I was here last, we added 6 counties, 3 cities. Yeah, 6 counties and 3 cities since I was here last year. Any other questions?
I have a couple.
You bet.
One on the employee assistance program. I'm sure you have something going to inform our employees, but what method do you use to let them know what things this?
Yep. So we have several communication pieces that we would want to get to your employees during that open enrollment time. It'll also become part of your employee handbook. We create a handbook for you each year that describes what all your benefits are. This would become part of that. So it would outline all of the services that are available. Again, there's many, many services available. This is very condensed.
That's why I was asking.
Yes, yeah. It also has like a perforated card that you can pop out and keep in your purse or your wallet that would have the 800 numbers. Again, that document recovery, some of those things, it's a convenient way to reach out.
Okay, and then my other question is, you mentioned that we negotiated this with you, so all these other cities, everyone negotiate, there's not a set price for us versus other cities for the same services, or are you talking about negotiating what we?
I think she was referring to the Wellmark renewal. So, yes, when we receive a renewal, that renewal applies to all members of IGHCP. So this year, we had a 0%, everybody received a 0%. Last year, our renewal was 3%, everybody received the same 3% renewal.
That's what I meant.
Yes.
I was excited with that word.
The increase for the IGHCP service was voted on by the IGHCP board at our last board meeting, which.
And that's that $5 increase.
Yeah.
We've never increased our consulting fees. I started IGHCP in 2005, and the cost to obtain the services have been the same for 20 years. We've been able to do it with those resources, but we need to expand the team as we've continued to grow the trust and cover more ground.
One other question, Aaron, are you good with this? You're kind of the leader of the band.
Go ahead.
Are you good with, you're kind of the leader of the band, are you good with this?
Or-
This plan?
Yeah, our health insurance, I guess I would say I was the one that kind of pushed for the EAP. And then the life insurance is something good for all of our employees too. So yeah, I'm a very big supporter of this plan and our partnership with IGHCP.
Okay.
Didn't we talk about the EAP like a year ago?
I don't know.
I didn't.
Okay,
I don't.
probably read it somewhere.
Any other questions for Denise? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
If there are no other, we need 3 different motions for this, correct?
Yes, I would ask for 3 different motions, so for 3 different resolutions. So the first one is basically entering into the contracts that we're currently, or renewing the contracts that we're currently doing right now and setting the COBRA rate with no increase for next year. The second resolution would be then entering into an agreement with Standard Insurance Company for the EAP, since that's new. I wanted to have that as a separate resolution. And the third resolution is if we start offering a couple of the voluntary life as well as the EAP, we're asking to revise the personnel policies to put those provisions in there.
All right, so I'm gonna first ask for a resolution approving agreements with Wellmark for group health insurance coverage, Delta Dental for dental insurance, Delta Vision for vision insurance coverage, Standard Life Company for life insurance and employee benefit systems for third-party administration services, and setting COBRA rates for the fiscal year 2026. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So Carolyn and Tom, you'll be the second. Roll call vote, please.
Ordinary.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Shrek.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Dirks.
Yes.
Atherton.
Yes.
Resolution's approved.
Okay, and I'd like a motion to approve the resolution approving an agreement with Standard Insurance Company for an employee assistance program.
So moved.
Tom
Second.
and Jason seconded. Roll call, please.
Ordinary.
Yes.
Atherton. Bauer.
Yes.
Dirks.
Yes.
Shrek.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Resolution's approved.
And a motion for a resolution approving a revised policy 0400 personnel policies, please. By Tom, JJ seconded. Roll call, please.
Dirks.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Atherton.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Shrek.
Yes.
Ordinary.
Yes.
Resolution's approved.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next one, resolution, which is the Iowa Finance Authority Down Payment Assistance Program grant. And Laura, do you want to talk about it first, or we'll just have Carla?
I'll let Carla take it away.
Very good. It's Carla Janney, but go ahead and introduce yourself just for the records.
I'm Carla Janney with Region 12. I'm the Housing Programs Coordinator out there, and I am here to talk to you and hopefully have a resolution passed to do an application to the Iowa Finance Authority that would provide a down payment with rehabilitation program. What this program would provide would be to first-time homebuyers within your city limits whose income is at or below 80% of the AMI. Family of 1, that would be about $53,800. A family of 2 would be $61,350, goes up to a family of 4 of $76,650. These are 80% of your county average incomes, okay? The program is we would work with your local realtors and your local banks to provide assistance in down payment. As you know, with the escalating interest rates and the skyrocketing prices of homes, it gets continually harder and harder for people to get into their first home. This program can provide up to $24,999 of down payment and or rehab. We set those limits when we work with the banker on what the house really needs. Is the house good to go for the next 5 years so they're not going to incur a major purchase or expense in a new roof or a mechanical system? If not, then we're going to look at what those rehab costs are and how much down payment can be provided. If the house is in good condition where they can't expect some of those costs in the next 5 years, we're going to do everything we can do to get that PMI down to 0 if possible. You have great support from your local banks. There are 5 local banks that Aaron has worked with tirelessly for us, who have committed $2,250 per bank for a total of $11,250. The resolution, I believe we have changed this a little bit this year. We applied last year also, but Iowa Finance Authority said we already had too much of their money. So we finished a couple of our programs out. Our capacity is now back open, and we're very confident moving forward with this. We tweaked the budget just a little bit to keep your whole grant ask at $198,000. That will eliminate the need for us to make our local contractors go through the BABA requirements, which is the Buy America, Build America, which means every single thing going in there has to be made in America. Great program, but our local contractors, it's hard enough for us to get them to work for us. We also do not have to do any of the Section 3 requirements from our local contractors. It'll make it much more acceptable to them to want to bid on these projects. Any questions about the program or what it could do? We would do up to 6 projects in this program.
Carl, we've done this in the past with 6 projects. How many of those are being used year over year?
We have other programs going right now in Denison. We were able to secure 5 of the 6, but we went through 18 people to get those. We have recently done 2 Carroll County through a different program, which is through the Iowa Economic Development Authority. We started out with 6 programs. They called and called. We ended up with 13 applicants that we served in one of the programs. We turned around and did it 2 years later and served 11 for a total of 24 people served in Carroll County in about a 4 and 5 year time frame. The need is definitely there. Your bankers know we're there. Your realtors know we're there. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I know typically you have people waiting for some of these, especially the down payment assistance. You know, you hear people talk about it.
In the last 3 weeks with spring and the grass growing green, I can't even count how many questions I get daily about down payment assistance. So they're really out there and just need a little help to get that debt to income ratio to work out for them to get the home that they need to be in.
So it talks as a 5 or 10 year forgivable loan. Say I qualify for this and I sell my house in 4 years. Is that a prorated amount back, or am I paying that whole amount?
No, it is a prorated amount. If you receive less than $15,000 in assistance, assistance is based off of the amount of down payment you receive and the difference between your as-is appraisal and your after rehab appraisal. So it is not a dollar for dollar of construction, just the difference in how much the property appraises at, and your down payment is what dictates that below 15,000 and above 15,000. Good question.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. All right, I look for a motion to approve a resolution providing matching funds for the 2025 Iowa Finance Authority Home Down Payment Assistance Program Grant.
So moved.
Is that Laverne?
Yep, Laverne?
Okay, Laverne and Tom.
Tom?
Okay. Roll call, please.
Dirk?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Wardenero?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Shrek?
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
Thank you. All right, next resolution, fiscal year 2025-26 budget. And Laura?
I have to open the public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry very much. We'll open a public hearing for this at 5:49 PM. And Laura?
Okay, thank you. Yes, this is the time for the public hearing on our fiscal 26 budget. We've discussed this over a few different work sessions, as well as had another public hearing on a proposed property tax levy. The proposed budget notice of public hearing was published in the Carroll Times-Herald on April 1st, which is in accordance with state code, so we're meeting that requirement. And included with your information is the detailed budget information as we have discussed in our sessions, and so this is the time for the public hearing. I have not received any comments in the office prior to tonight.
Anybody else have any comments from the audience at all? Any questions from the council? All right, we'll close the public hearing. It is 5:51. All right, then I'll look for approval of the resolution adopting the annual budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
By Tom and Laverne
second.
seconded. Roll call, please.
Atherton?
No.
Wardenero?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Shrek? No. Motion the resolution is approved for too.
All right, thank you. All right, next resolution is US 30 Traffic Signal System Master Plan. And I bet Randy knows some about this.
Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
A proposed professional services agreement has been negotiated with Snyder and Associates for what's titled a US 30 Traffic Signal System Master Plan. It's actually a review of the current signal system, actually the equipment in the system, that it will include all of the controller type equipment as well as the structural portion, the poles, the mast arms, everything. Detailed review of those in an effort to identify the specification for replacements. As you can see in the proposal or the agreement itself, some of the traffic signal equipment is up to 49 years old. So some will need to be replaced. Certainly controller equipment in that industry needs to be replaced. Some of the controllers currently in the system we can no longer repair. Parts are not made. We've got several different types of controllers in the system, and the proposal eventually will be likely replacement of all of those for uniform controllers, be able to train an individual to perform preventative maintenance and some troubleshooting on a single model of controller. But anyway, the scope is detailed in the agreement. Like I said, it includes field review of the existing signals, the existing structures, and then preparing cost estimates for some replacements, and then prioritizing those improvements. The scope of services is proposed to be performed on an hourly basis plus expenses with a total estimated fee of $34,800. And funding for the project is in the current budget. So unless there are any questions, I'd recommend your consideration of approval of the agreement with Snyder and Associates.
Questions?
Yeah. Oh. JJ first.
No, I mean, it's just kind of basic. If we've already talked about the need to replace all these, why is it necessary that we have to do a study on this? Why, if we know it all has to be done?
Well, we know there's a lot has to be done. And this is actually the identification of what you can take to design for bidding the replacements. You know, my first encounter with Snyder on this issue, I mentioned that we needed to replace some signal equipment. Well, their first question back to me was, what equipment do you need to replace? You know, there's a lot of equipment out there, you know, ranging from the computer controllers themselves to signal heads and wiring. In fact, just last week, we had to bore in a new conduit at one of the intersections for the underground wiring. And if you have to get into that at every intersection, you know, that conduit was in there for 50 years, 49 years. If you have to get into that for every intersection, the costs are just going to skyrocket to replace underground wiring. And that's something we want to identify in advance before going to a bid on the project.
The thing that I have is we only have one light that's working that's 50 years old now, correct?
No, I think there's 4.
I have 1, 2, I have 3 of them. I have Carroll Street,
Main Street, Park Street.
Main Street, and Clark Street, right?
Yes, that's right.
Was
3.
Why can't we just replace those? Why do I need a study? Like, I know that those are old. And that was one that we had the problem with, that we had to put the conduit in, correct?
Yes.
Why don't we just?
No, it wasn't. West Street was the one we had to put the conduit in.
West Street, what was West Street?
above Carroll Street.
92. But I assume so that one was in since 92, correct?
Yes.
Is that a common thing that we've seen on lights, that it's just over time? I assume, like, at what point in time do these 1976 ones need a new conduit?
We have not experienced that to date. Only that
Only
one
that
at
one, so that's just kinda
West
an
Street.
We gotta replace
Yes.
those 3. I just don't, I struggle with spending $30,000 for professional opinion when I could tell you that Carroll, Maine, and Clark need to be replaced. And that's free.
Actually, the controller at, for example, at Market Street, it's 18 years old. It's obsolete. We can't get parts for it. There are no technicians that are currently hired by our traffic signal company that does our maintenance work that are trained on that controller. They don't even train them on an 18-year-old controller anymore. So that's what we're getting into. We've got several different controllers out there because one has gone bad and it couldn't be fixed. So we had to put a new one in there. And actually those are getting old. So even the relatively new controller equipment is obsolete now.
So we have to do basically a complete replacement of all of these, outside of maybe Grant Street, the 2018.
Likely, yes.
Can I just put that $30,000 towards the replacement of them instead of spending $30,000 for them to tell me that I need a complete replacement of all of them except for Grant Road?
In addition to the controllers, this proposed agreement includes the structural evaluation of the poles and mast arms. You know, we've experienced one pole fell down several years ago.
And how old was that pole?
It was probably a,
1976 pole?
I don't think so. I think it was, in fact, I know it was on West Street. I think it was a 1992 pole that fell.
Okay, so
Now-
I even threw in here on this thing that I said, we're gonna replace every single light, because the 1992 poles, obviously we can't replace anyway, so the structural integrity of it, I just don't see why putting brand new stuff on a 1992 pole, no professional is gonna allow us to do this. So why don't we just save the 30 grand and just do the project? Put it towards the project.
Well, this is recommended because we believe this would be spending the money wiser than wholesale replacement of everything. You know, we had one of the 1976 poles, we had to weld this spring because it was starting to crack. And that's what we want the analysis
that
of.
one?
Pardon me?
The what?
76. It was one of the older poles. So
If
it's,
we do this, it'll be cheaper when they come back and say that we need to replace all these things. I personally think it's gonna be like, you're out $30,000 and now we have to replace it. Like, if we have a welded pole, there's no professional that's gonna come out and say, hey, man, you should keep that pole. Like, they're just not, you know what I mean? So, to me, I guess I'm trying to understand why I'm paying $30,000 when I could ask Scott Johnson back there, hey, would you put a $500,000 light on a pole that was welded? You know what I mean? Like, no.
okay.
Does that, I guess, and that's where I'm trying to get, like, is this a requirement that we have to do through the state, or, and that's where I'm kind of just getting, or is this just like a suggestion that we get this thing done?
This is not a requirement of the state to do this. This is a recommendation to spend the money wisely when you get into construction. I mean, the construction cost is gonna far surpass this $30,000. It's gonna be a lot.
Are we going to
And,
engineer this thing too?
yes,
So these people are simply just telling me what's wrong.
yes, they're identifying what we need to replace.
Randy, look at it the other way. What could happen if you don't do this? Is there something, what if we do not do this? like Jason is thinking, what could happen? Is there anything?
Well, if you wanted to go in and just wholesale replace poles and controllers and all traffic signal equipment, likely your cost is gonna be extremely high. I don't even know what it would be.
So the goal
That's
here is to
that's an
actually
al-
find some things that don't need to be replaced.
Yes. Identify what needs to be replaced and don't replace what isn't needed. That's all it
And
is.
do you feel that a pole that was from 1976 will be able to be saved?
It's likely it could. It has to be looked at closely, but they're steel poles. The 92 pole fell down, it happens. We had the crack in the 76 pole, mast arm, actually. So should we just replace the mast arm on that pole? That's what we want to know to spend the bulk of the money wisely. That's the only reason for the recommendation.
I'm gonna put that down as a note right here.
And Randy, in their scope of services, they mentioned that they're going to prioritize what needs to be done and when. So they're going to give us short-term, mid-term, long-term improvements and estimated costs by intersection. So we can budget this out during the short-term, mid-term, long-term. Is that what you're thinking? Based on what needs to be done, the worst gets done first? Is that how?
You can, this will give you the opportunity to prioritize that spending.
Yeah. well,
Exactly.
It would make
if-
sense to get the worst done first, to get the cost nailed down, rather than waiting for prices to go up over the midterm, long term. I don't know. What are you thinking they will do?
There could be some of the replacements, improvements that could be lower priority, let's say, scheduled farther in the future. However, there are some of the improvements that are likely all done the same time. It would be the best. For example, the controllers. Where I would be hesitant to stagger the purchase of controllers because that technology expires so quickly that, we've got like one guy that can do troubleshooting. We've only got 9 signals, so we can't train a lot of people on maintenance or troubleshooting traffic signal controllers. So one of the advantages for them would be to have uniform controllers so that every cabinet they go to is a mirror of the last one they were at. So they can learn that cabinet and then be able to troubleshoot all the controllers. Right now, we've got several different models of controller, and they all operate differently. And
The perfect example to my question is, we have to replace all the controllers, right?
that would be,
Replace them. I don't need a study to tell me that. I don't need to pay somebody $30,000 to tell me that I gotta replace all the controllers. I got you, I have to replace them. Why would I not put that $30,000 towards just the controllers?
well, we want to identify everything else also. The signal heads are a big issue also. And some of the signal heads have some age on them. We want to get into them and see if they're corroding, if they should be replaced. Pole wiring, underground wiring, pole structure, that's all included in this recommendation.
Any other questions?
Tom, what was your question?
Same one Dave was asking. Looking for an answer.
All right, I'll,
They're even gonna inspect the one on Grant Road that's done in 2018 for structural damage.
Probably take a look at it, yeah. And just to make sure, if there's any wind damage, like we had the relatively new pole of 92 pole fell down. Anything can happen once they get out there. But I'd, strongly suggest that they take a look at those poles and mast arms to make sure that they haven't had any damage since then.
All right, I'm gonna look for a motion to approve the resolution approving the agreement with Snyder and Associates Incorporated for professional services for the US 30 traffic signal system master plan. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Carolyn, is there a second?
I'll second.
Laverne seconded. A roll call vote, please.
Shrek,
No.
Ordinary,
Yes.
Atherton,
No,
Bauer,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Yes.
Dirk. Resolution is approved 4-2.
Okay. All right, thank you, and we'll move on to building department services agreement. And Aaron.
Thank you, Mayor. As you all know, you met our new building inspector coming from Denison. However, unfortunately, with the application process, he was the most qualified, but he does not have as many of the same credentials as Perry does. So our recommendation is to utilize a company out of, or the engineering firm V&K or Veenstra and Kim, who has an engineer or a building inspection department that can help him get his credentialing and also professionalize the service that we're providing, making sure that we're covering all of our state requirements, and give him and Dan the proper training to have a good professional department that we have. Not to say what Perry did was wrong, it's just I think we have an opportunity here to professionalize a little bit more.
Any questions for Aaron?
Just one quick one. As he's progressing through getting these credentials, you or Dan or somebody will be watching his progress, I assume, to keep him moving along.
As Dan is his first line supervisor, Dan will be,
Dan
but
will,
obviously I'll
okay.
probably pay a little bit of attention to this one too, because I
Watch
have a little
Dan.
bit, yeah, I'll watch Dan.
Okay, thank you. That's good.
Maybe I missed it in here. What's the time frame that he has to be certified?
In his offer letter, we said within the first year, we would like to see reasonable growth towards full certification, is how we worded it. We gave him that first year to kind of get a good grasp of everything, and then we'll work on that going forward.
Dave, those words like possibly we would like, how do those things hold up? If this is, let's just say, I agree the best in them, but let's just say he does not meet that, the time.
The standard.
When we go to like release him or something, you know what I mean? Like, we're like, hey, you didn't, where are we at as far, you know what I mean? And you just gotta always think of the worst, it doesn't work out, and he comes back and says, well, this just said kind of like to, or, you know what I mean, versus at 1 year mark, if you're not at X, Y, Z, then that is grounds for termination. Does that make sense?
And
Or we can adjust from there, though.
And I think that would need to be in the agreement with him as to what the consequences will be if those standards aren't met, or those timelines. Otherwise, I think it's with the discretion of the city manager as to what consequences there might be if those timelines and standards aren't met.
Would you suggest that it be in the agreement, a specific timeline needs to be met, or?
You know, without knowing his background myself, I would leave that up to the city manager to make that recommendation.
Well, with this training that he's taken, is there a class? Is there a test? Is there a
Yes.
graduation
Yes.
certificate that says I did that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes to all your questions, yes. There's 4 certifications: structural, plumbing, electrical, mechanical, but there's also residential, commercial. Perry has all 8. So he's got a significant amount of information that he has to take on within the next, hopefully, year to 2 years. And obviously, we've spent the majority of the time, or our emphasis to him is the electrical inspections. But yeah, he has some information as far, or experience with structural.
He's taken
Correct.
some classes through, I forget what school it was, but yeah, he has some.
So some of these, do they have so many hours of class time they have to be in? to get the certification?
No, it's actually testing, like the electrical is testing. And then you get your certificate. Mechanical would be the same way, plumbing. He had just taken his mechanical over when he was working in Denison. He had just taken that, I wanna say, I thought he said like 6 months ago or something like that.
Missed it by a
He
couple
didn't pass,
questions.
But that's, I mean, so his intentions are to go back and get that one too, but he understood that, the importance of getting the electrical.
So we just want him to get, is that, maybe I just don't know the baseline of where you guys think that he should be at. Should be halfway through this? Should it be a quarter way through this? Should it be through this process? That's what is, that like myself and JJ are struggling with is where is yours,
When Perry
where would you like him at? Would he like 3 of the classes done or 2 of the classes or?
When Perry got his initial one was his electrical certification, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it took him 18 months to get his certification.
Just for one of
Just for one.
Just for the electrical. Now, understanding, I think a lot of these classes, like on the ICC membership that we're involved in, you can go in there and take all kinds of classes that just give you a certificate that you've accomplished this in that class. If he would get the electrical, which would eliminate the majority of having to have the V&K in here doing the inspections, the building, the structure, I mean, he has planning, blueprint and construction planning, he has residential electrical construction planning, so he's gotten some of those certificates. But I mean, to be fully licensed is what the mechanical, the electrical, plumbing, those type of things, those will take time.
Okay, well, thank you. I finally got, I thought this was like a 6-month thing or something. Now, okay, this is an thank you for the timeline. The
Yeah,
timeline is
this
justified
isn't a
now. that
quick,
he's
go to
not gonna
school
complete
in
this.
2 weeks and
Yes,
get
sir.
your license. This is,
Okay, no, I got you, okay.
So as he,
I'm satisfied, thank you.
so as he completes one of these certifications, are they all at one time or just one at a time?
One at a
One
time.
at a time.
One
So
at a
every time he gets that, then that's that much less time we have to hire B&K
Yeah.
over the time period. All right.
Can I ask a question? So Dan, will you have to take those classes too if you're gonna supervise him? Would you have to know all of that?
I currently take online right now. I go through and watch and do the online training, any chance that I
You
get.
don't have to be
I
certified.
don't have to be certified, no. It's kinda like an electrician that owns his business. He's certified, and he may have 6 people that work under him, and if they're apprentices to his, license.
Kind of reverse, he'll
Yeah.
be,
Yeah,
But Dan, B&K, it says they're going to help with his training, so he'll be learning on the job, so
as
to
he's
speak.
going, yeah.
Okay, thanks, that helps.
So Dan, one of the things I seen on here was the code plan review for, this was residential. So when you do a final inspection on, say, residential or commercial, are you gonna have, or do we currently have 4 pages of checklist of marks that we go through? I just don't wanna get it to be, where it's tough for somebody to build, or not cost effective. One of the things I thought was, it was so dumb, but like having a window in a room, or a room having to be a certain size, like if I'm building something, I should be the one having the say in that, nobody else.
So a lot of those, and you gotta remember also, and I'm just reading, when I read through this too, I looked at it, I mean, I think, as somebody comes in and is gonna build a home locally, we'll come in and, I mean, just like what you guys built, you come in with a drawing, here it is. In some of the cities, they come in, they have engineered plans on the house, they have engineered plans on the plumbing, they have engineered plans on the electrical. Those are the things that we'll have to work through V&K, saying, okay, this is our plan, this is how they're gonna operate.
Cause I think on the residential or commercial side, you get into like the studies or having an engineer, well, now I've got 20,000 more of fees and costs that this deal doesn't work, yeah. So-
Most of the stuff you're talking about, though, if you go to your HVAC guy or your plumber, there's a program, they can go in and plug your thing in, and it'll pop it out and say, this is the certified or.
I just want to make sure we don't
So-
get into a situation where it's tougher for somebody to build. So,
Well,
Is-
we're most certainly not trying to do that.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
So the city will be paying V&K for their services that they'll provide in that time frame.
Yes.
Are we billing that back to like the builder or to the,
No, we'll be paying, take our normal building fees like we do now. This will be a little bit more expensive to get it to the final product, but I think in the end, it'll be a benefit for us to have that.
Without it, there'd be delays in.
Yeah, we'd have to have the state come in and set up time for them to come in to do our inspections and that's just for the electrical. Then we wouldn't have, or we'd have to find somebody to do the plumbing, the HVAC and structural.
All right, I don't see any other questions or. We'll look for approval of a resolution entering into a building department services agreement with Veenstra and Kim Incorporated as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Carolyn? Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tom. Roll call, please.
Bauer,
yes.
Atherton,
No.
Dirks,
Yes.
Shrek,
yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Cornell.
Yes.
Resolution approved 5-1.
I have a comment to make with my hesitant yes. Like, this probably could have been prevented had we required Rick to become certified in this stuff as was recommended during his hiring process.
Probably, but how would he do it though? Who would we hire? I mean, I'm just throwing it out there that we're hiring this guy and he was the best applicant. How are we gonna do it other than not build houses or anything?
No, I'm saying, like, it could have been prevented had we made sure that when we hired Rick and told him to be ICC certified, that was followed through with, and that didn't happen.
Dan, would Rick get into all those categories though?
I don't,
I mean, as a code enforcement officer, I mean,
He doesn't.
he's not doing a new inspections.
he does not do new inspections.
I mean, I think something in the future, it's cross-train and but you're not gonna have the perfect candidate fall in your lap ever, I don't think.
Well, he was the most
No,
qualified candidate.
I'm just
right?
saying as well, like, that was recommended at the time of Rick's hiring, because we knew Perry's retirement was up and coming. Had we pushed that a little bit and tried to make that happen, we may not be in the spot we're in right now.
And that's why I'm hesitant on the wording of it. I'm hesitant because of that situation is why I was kind of a no, was that I was hesitant on the wording of it, so. But
Dan, how many cities have, say our size, have somebody that's fully certified?
Now, when Chris came from Denison, he wasn't certified over there. He was doing the building inspections, but they had the state come in and do the electrical side of it. He was doing the plumbing and the mechanical and that stuff. He was doing that, but he was not doing electrical. So they hired the state to come in and do that.
Yeah.
So there's not very many candidates out there that are fully certified, you're saying?
Well, we didn't get any. I mean, I see them all the time, coming through ICC, website for building inspectors or building officials. But
No,
there are jobs postings all the time for those positions, you know?
They're going through that, but are they they're saying they're completing it? You see they're completing ICC training?
No, I'm saying that a lot of time, ICC is the international, the building, that's not the right verbiage on it. That is where all the contractors, when we get a contractor in, we give his ID number, we check through them to make sure that he's certified, and then we put it on our permits to go through. That's who they all get their gradations through is the ICC. And again, building officials out there, I mean, part of why we probably may not have gotten them was just our pay scale of where they were at, you know? to get somebody that was certified.
So basically, we had an interview, we got the best candidate. He's not exactly qualified, so we're trying to get him trained. Otherwise, we'd have nobody, because Perry's retiring anyway, period.
Yep.
So then what? Then you,
What's plan
what do you do?
B?
Like you said, call in the state? How long would that take?
Dan, with his experience, would you say he's mostly ready or close to passing? What,
I have
3 of
no-
them?
well, I
Or
think-
except for the electrical?
The electrical.
Sound like
He, like I said, he was,
Plumbing.
yeah, in the last year over there in Denison, they had converted their, inspections to, in fact, we just got an email this last week that the state is moving on to, the 2024 building code, so we'll be updating our building codes too, which he did that process last year in Denison. So he's kind of up on that, but as far as, his taking the tests and things like that, like I said, he told us that he had just got done taking the mechanical, trying to start his,
So he is motivated?
he's motivated to
Okay,
get them, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next resolution, school resource officer 2080 and staffing level, and Brad.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. We've been discussing with the school, Carroll Community School District, for a few years on adding a school resource officer to their building. It's never quite worked out, and then this last fall, Dr. Casey Berlaw got a hold of me and indicated that they want to move forward with this position on a permanent basis, and that they have some funding available, and that they want to make it a full-time position within the school district for them. We did some negotiating back and forth. We came up with a 28E agreement that was reviewed by the city attorney, also through the school. And then they met at their March 27th meeting and passed, I guess, the first half of the 28E. And I'm bringing that to you tonight to review and to hopefully get passed through. If we do add a school resource officer for the Carroll Community School District, I am also recommending that we add a full-time police officer. With our current staffing levels, we will not be able to provide a full-time police officer in the schools due to our tight scheduling and just our staffing levels overall. So what I have brought to you tonight is the 2080 agreement, and the resolution also recommends that adding a full-time police officer to fill this position, although the new officer won't fill the position, it'll be someone within the department, so it'll be backfilling the position. And of course, the 2080 is 10 pages long, so I'm sure you guys have some questions that you'd like answered, but my recommendation would be to approve the 2080 with the school district and add one full-time police officer to our staffing level.
Brad, I have 2 questions, and appreciate your time on this. Same with Casey. I want to make sure I understand the difference, 2 different words. The renewal is explained on page 1 of the document. That's easy to understand. Then when I got to page 7, I wasn't sure if I was understanding how the 2 work together. Then we're into, it expires on June 30th of 2028.
Correct. So the renewal for the
yeah.
2080 is going to be every annually.
Yes.
We want the first one to be for 3 years so that we don't want to hire someone and then after 12 months, we have to terminate or lay someone off. So we initially set it up for the 3 years for the first one, so it'll expire, the agreement will expire in 2028, and then the 28E will renew annually.
Okay, thank you. Now it makes
Clarified it in
sense.
the memo pretty well.
And then I have a second question about the evaluation. Let me find, it's on page 2 under supervision and program assessment, and under 3 and 4, and not to summarize it, but you're going to set your goals at the beginning of the school year, then evaluate how things went in 2 areas, not only the effectiveness of the program, but also how the officer worked out. I'm not going to talk about that. That's personnel, don't need to know. But what I was wondering if you and/or Casey would be willing to, maybe together, is once you evaluate the effectiveness of the program at the end of the school year, if you could just show up at a council meeting and present to us and the public. I've had questions I can't answer from public on both sides of this issue, and I just thought it would give reassurance to
Yeah, I'm
people.
completely open
Would
to that. I'm
you-
sure,
Would
we
that
guess
be
Casey is
okay?
too, but
Just the highlights, not
it's gonna be a
going
learning
into the-
process for the first year
Oh,
since
I
we've never
know.
done this before too,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it could be good to, get some information to the public for things that went well or didn't go well.
Well,
We'll kinda
and
see.
whatever depth you feel that, thank you very
Yes,
much
absolutely.
for being willing.
Anything else? All right, I'd like to look for a resolution, a motion to, add one full-time police officer to provide a school resource officer to the Carroll Community School District, and approval of the resolution to enter into a 28E agreement between the city and the district.
So moved.
By Tom and JJ seconded. A roll call, please.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Shrek?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes,
Resolution's approved.
Thank you.
Next resolution is, thank you, Dr. Burloff, for
Thank you.
coming in. All right. Merchants Park lease, Iowa High School Athletic Association, Iowa High School State Baseball Tournaments in Chad.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor and Council. This is just an updated lease from the previous 3-year lease that we had from the state. They are coming back to Carroll until 2028. Very excited to have them back. There's been some very minor changes in the contract, dealing with the pay per game, as well as an increase in the amount of tournament-related costs. So that's mainly our signage, our banners, things like that. It is strictly on their dime, full reimbursement. So, yeah, my recommendation is to enter into the lease agreement with the Iowa High School Athletic Association to bring state baseball back to Carroll.
So moved.
Second.
I got one question first.
No? Sure.
I
You
just-
still got a motion in a second, you can ask a
Yeah,
question.
that's right. My question only is that what was the significant change from last time, just, we can just, in a nutshell?
Basically, it was just the amount per game. We had to put a bid package together for the RFP when they sent it out. So we trimmed a little bit off of the amount per game, just because we got comfortable with how staffing, especially our staffing, was down there. Didn't feel like it overly covered our costs. And then there was an increase of, I think, $1,000 for just the tournament-related costs. So the banners, the tournament side, the tournament sides, things like that.
Okay, so thank you very much. Tom made a motion.
Tom, Jason.
And Jason seconded. Roll call, please.
Seaman?
yes,
Atherton?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Bornero?
Yes.
Shrek?
Yes.
Resolution's approved.
Okay, moving on to reports. Community Catalyst Building Remediation Program Grant Application and Aaron.
Yeah, I'll ask Kimberly Tiefenthaler to come up from CCGP, who's been kind of, she's been spearheading the application process. This is a annual application process that starts in January. It starts with a pre-application and then goes to a full-blown application after that. They only do it once a year. Obviously, the award then doesn't come until July of this coming year. So it's a lengthy process. It's a good process for us to be in partnership with our local business people, and then it's also a good partnership with the Iowa Economic Development Authority. And Kimberly, you can add whatever else you'd like.
I'll answer any questions you might have. The process is, it starts in January with a pre-application, and so we fill out that pre-application if we have an applicant, and then that has to be, they go through that, and you have to be invited to go through the full application process. So at that point, if you're invited to go ahead and go through the full process, then you can do that. Those applications are due mid-April. Awards are notified by the end of June, and then award letters in the new fiscal year in July.
I guess I have a kind of administrative question. Have there been cities that just got the emergency catalyst grant turned around and the next year got another catalyst grant? Is that like common, or is that like?
Well, I think there are cities that utilize this program very well and have, for a long time. Carroll's just not used to being one of those communities.
Because in the past, has that happened?
back to back.
Turn around and that following year, you get the catalyst, and how often, I guess?
I can't answer that.
Are they two separate categories? Is one an emergency and the other one's just a plain catalyst, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be very rare for a community to get emergency catalyst grant. That's a special situation. This is the normal catalyst application process.
Debbie Durham is in charge of the emergency one.
Have we ever received one in this, I guess, this category? No? Have we applied for them before?
To my knowledge, prior to my coming on board here, no, Carroll's never applied. So my feeling has always been to leverage the resources that are at the state level, like a lot of other communities across the state do. So that's always my thought and intent. Those resources are gonna go somewhere. If we can pull them here to Carroll and do some good, then why not?
I went to the rural housing, or the rural summit, and it's called 45 questions, 45 comments in 45 minutes. And I was amazed at how many towns talked about their catalyst grant, what they did. So there was quite a few of them already awarded. I don't know the number, but there was quite a few people talked about, some of them were only like 25,000 or 100,000. There was a lot of towns talked about it, so it's out there.
So moved.
All right, there's a motion.
Second.
Tom, second.
Kimberly, have you had more people ask about these, since?
Yes, there are a couple of buildings downtown that are very good, would be qualifiers for the Catalyst Grant Program. I've had a couple of realtors reach out to me. They've had people that are interested in some buildings. They want to know, is this one of those buildings that might be a qualifying building, that kind of thing. So yeah, there's, we've stuck our toe in this now as far as this is something that's available. The information's getting out there.
I think it's a great thing. I mean, like you said, if the money's not coming here, it's going somewhere else, whether people like the money coming from the state or not. It's not coming here, it's
Yeah,
going
you're
somewhere
right. The
else.
state allocates so much money to the IEDA for this every year.
Kimberly, this is a little off topic, but have you heard anything? Remember when Jim Thompson at the big wrap-up meeting made a big production of the ugliest building downtown was Brown Shoe Fit because of the green? And I keep popping in to talk to Dane to see if he's heard, it's always corporate, we're waiting for corporate. Have you heard anything that maybe they're going to make a decision about the facade or?
I really can't speak to that for sure.
You
My
haven't heard
understanding is
anything?
it kind of got put on hold on their
Okay.
corporate side, and so.
Yeah, Dane said he hasn't heard in a while. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve by Jason, a second by Tom. Roll call vote, please.
Bauer?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Shrek?
Yes.
Ordinary?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Hey, good luck, Spencer and April. We appreciate you guys showing up too. That shows your involvement, so thank you.
And I want to thank you for making that motion before I had to read that whole thing.
No, you're good.
All right, we'll move on to our last report, which is sale of fire rescue vehicle. I guess Aaron and Daniel's here, but do you want to talk about it, or?
Well, recently we received our rescue vehicle or the new rescue vehicle that we ordered. So we now are prepared to get rid of city property, and one of the options is to do a sealed bid in-house. We've had some significant interest in this vehicle with a recommended minimum bid for the sealed bid, and staff would recommend to put the old fire rescue vehicle out to bid with the recommended minimum bid and see what bids we get for that to sell the vehicle.
All right, questions?
Can we agree to go, if we get a bid, to just go, so we don't have to come back here is there any wiggle room?
Oh, for negotiations?
Say you get a bid of
Yeah.
150 or whatever.
If somebody comes in, we say, I see the minimum's at 185, but can we, I guess, if somebody comes in at 175, I don't think
Didn't he say he had somebody lined up? Manning or somebody, where was that? Or Avoca? No?
I'm not gonna say.
Oh, all right.
I'm not gonna say in.
You know what, I take that response back, I don't wanna do that. In a public venue.
I don't,
I do not wanna do that.
I don't know.
185.
I don't know if we can do that.
Yes.
Obviously,
Okay,
that's
I take that back.
a city attorney
That's
question.
a Jason
And
flipping
he
his
probably-
mouth, sitting up here and realizing we're on YouTube right now. No.
So really, we couldn't,
Disregard.
the actual
Disregard
answer
that.
then would be that we can't do that, is that correct?
Well, as far as negotiating, like right now,
Well,
you know,
take
say, no, we
a bit
need,
lower than our minimum.
we need to accept we need to receive the bids.
A bid higher than
And-
that or as one
At
eighty-five.
least the minimum, okay.
Well, I
so-
I just don't think you make a decision now.
No.
You need to wait and receive the bids, and then there can be a discussion.
I strike that from the record.
That's fine, write that down. Tom made a motion, is there a second?
Oh, so moved.
Jason seconded it. Roll call vote, please.
Cordero?
Yes.
Shrek?
Yes.
Dirk?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
All right, committee reports are available for all of us to peruse. No specific comments from the mayor this evening. How about from anyone on this council? Anyone from, anything from the city manager?
Well, I do have a comment.
Sure, go ahead.
There was a Carroll cleanup day for Earth Day. It was the second Carroll cleanup day. I don't know if you guys might have seen it on Facebook or something. Ryan Wendell put it on. This was their second year, and I think there was 100 and some odd students and people that showed up and just kind of cleaned up the city of Carroll. And so you can mark your calendar for next year. It's kind of a good event. And then they donate part of, each kid or whatever gets $10, and then that is donated to a charity of their choice throughout the community, so the food pantry and stuff like that. Good event, it's a nice day, this is our second year doing it, I just wanted.
Is it through the school system or is it?
It's really not through the school system, it's,
okay.
I mean,
Great.
we do it at the
She
Hoyt
did.
Mansion just because, obviously, but it's really, as a junior, she kind of, or sophomore, she pioneered it, and it's kind of picking up every year to go out there, so I want to give her credit where credit is due, so.
Jason, I saw that, is it posted at the radio website, the information? I just
believe it
remember,
is,
yeah,
yes.
so people could go to that too.
Yes, and so.
Thank you.
And then you show up and you fill up a bag and you get $10 for
Mm-hmm.
your bag, and it goes to whatever charity you want, and then there's other donors that match what is raised, so it's starting to pick up steam, so next year, it's on Earth Day every year, it's kind of a cool thing to do in our community to get it cleaned up for spring cleaning.
Okay, thank you. City manager comments.
I've talked enough tonight. Nope.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion second, motion by Tom, second by Jason. Roll call, please.
Dirk?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Cordero?
Yes.
Bauer? Shrek?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
All right, thank you.